Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to another episode of Sree's daily global COVID-19 show. My name is Sree Sreenivasan, and it's my honor to convene this daily conversation from around the world. Today, we have a very special episode for you. We're going to go all the way from New York to Las Vegas to talk about Vegas under COVID. This is episode number 128. We've been on lockdown in New York for 4 straight months and 128 straight days, including our weekends. We have been talking on this show. We're going to discover what's it like to live in a tourist city during COVID. What's it like live in the tourist city under COVID. You're going to meet 2 former New Yorkers now living in Vegas. Terri and Thompson, my dear friend and former colleague, former director of the Knight-Bagehot program in business and economics journalism at Columbia University, my colleague at Columbia Journalism School for 20 years plus, and we'll be joined by Yoyce Jones, mental health advocate. Before we go to them, I need to say hi to all of you and get set for our show. Hi, everybody. I'm Sree. I'm the Marshall Loeb Visiting Professor of Digital Innovation at the Stony Brook School of Journalism. And it's my honor to be here with all of you today. Thank you so much for watching. For everyone who's written in and said that this is an uplifting show, that this is a lifeline for you, you should know it's a lifeline for me. I benefit from the show more than anyone else. I learn more and try to understand what's happening in our very, very unusual, in this time of great problems and pain. We're trying to understand 3 crises at the same time: the health crisis, the financial crisis, and the racial inequality crisis. And we'll be going to Vegas in just a couple of minutes. First, I want to thank our producers for making the show possible. They work so hard on the show every day. Rose Horowitz and Vandana Menon, please follow them at Rose Horowitz 31 and at Vandana_Menon. This show has been on for 128 days. We've had more than 1 million viewers, 88 million social impressions, and 234 guests from 48 cities and 13 countries, doctors, nurses, authors, CEOs, founders, teachers, professors, so many different folks. Please look for our archives at youtube.com/Sreenet, youtube.com/Sreenet. And please tell us where you're watching from right now. Tag your friends, hit share right now so that your friends can join us. You can just tag them and then they can watch later, even if they can't watch it right now. We have a couple of great shows coming up in the next few days, but we do want to tell you about the show coming up tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. early start. Soil for Food and Climate Security is the title of our show. Dr. Ratan Lal, winner of the 2020 World Food Prize, will be here, professor of soil science at Ohio State University. This is going to be a fabulous show tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. Please join us for that. And the reason we have a super early show is because tomorrow night we're doing this. I have the honor of hosting a conversation with Fareed Zakaria, Anil Kapoor, Bollywood superstar, and Rukmini Banerjee, the CEO of Pratham. This is for Pratham USA. Please check out their national fundraising gala. You can join by going to prathamusa.org. It's all voluntary in terms of contributions. So please try to check this out. 8:30 p.m. tomorrow night, 8:30 Eastern time, tomorrow, Pratham USA on Saturday. And so Saturday morning we have a show, and then Saturday night. Okay, are you ready to go to Vegas? We're going to just take 1 more minute before we go to Vegas to thank our sponsors, because the sponsors are what make all of this possible. And a big shout out to Muck Rack Academy and Fundamentals of Social Media, a free certification course now available. And that's right, this is a course I'm teaching, but Muck Rack has put together the resources to offer you a free class that more than 4,000 people have taken. Go to mrac.co/social. You get the latest on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. It's suitable for any age, any background, any experience. Take a screenshot or please hit share right now. And with that, let me bring on stage my dear friend, Terri Thompson, who is going to be with us for the next hour, and will be joined in a few minutes by our other speaker, Yoyce Jones, also known as Apollo here on Facebook. So if we're all ready, here is Terri Thompson. Hi, Terri.
Hi, Sree. How are you? You know, I see you every day online, but I was hoping to see you in Las Vegas this week. You were supposed to be here.
That's right. That's right. That's why we're doing the show today, because I was supposed to spend 4 or 5 days relaxing and teaching in Vegas at a big conference, and my entire family was going to come out, plus 3 of my colleagues at Digimentors, my social, digital, and virtual events consulting company. Of course, it wasn't a virtual events consulting company at the time, but now it is. And we are trying to help people understand how to continue to connect with their colleagues and friends in this time of crisis. But I would have been in Vegas this week, and I would have been so delighted to spend time with you, and that was my plan. But here we are. We are the same week, but under very different circumstances. So let me start by asking the first question I ask everybody. How are you doing? How's your family? Please catch us up.
So this is now COVID, what I call COVID-19 18.5. We're in the 5th day of the 18th week of lockdown here in Las Vegas. And Ralph and I, my husband Ralph and I, are happy here. I mean, might as well. I mean, I'm retired, so what would I be doing anyway? But it's lovely in Las Vegas. It's really pretty, but it's a whole different Las Vegas than it would have been just like a month ago. But so let me tell you about my kids. We really miss Ralph and I miss our kids so much. Danny is in Manhattan, living in the apartment in Manhattan, where I can't even go back to because I'd be quarantined, although I've been quarantined for 18 weeks, so what's another couple of weeks? But Nevada is one of the naughty states where we can't go back without. I think there are 18 or something between 18 and 20 states that have to quarantine if they want to fly into New York, and Nevada is one of them. We were supposed to be going back. I had a reservation booked for August 4th, but earlier this week I canceled it because it's gotten tough here in Nevada. It's gotten bad.
And we are so sorry that it's that bad, and it's because in part of the way government at various levels has been dealing with this, isn't it? And so tell us about the political situation there, and tell us about the governor and the mayor. I remember the mayor made some news when she wanted to open all the casinos, but she herself said she wouldn't go into the casinos, and that was very early, like end of May, it felt like.
Yeah. Well, it was opening up, about a month ago. In fact, my niece Nikki and her husband Scott were in Las Vegas. They live in Washington State, so I wouldn't even let them come visit me because Washington had been such an epicenter. And Ralph and I are very, very cautious about seeing anybody. And so the casinos started opening up, and they felt safe enough to come. I think it was Father's Day weekend, so June 19th. And Nikki and they stayed at the Cosmopolitan, which is a pretty fancy resort here. And while they were in the hotel, 2 employees came down with tested positive for COVID. So I asked her today if she would ever come back, and she said no, not now, not under the circumstances. So, and I did, I haven't been on the Strip since. So I asked her today if she would ever come back, and she said no, not. So is there a little blip there?
No, go ahead. It's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So, I haven't been on the Strip myself since early March when we had out-of-town visitors. So I had to do some research, old-fashioned research, and I've got some statistics from you that I pulled up from the Las Vegas Review-Journal and the local Channel 8 News, and it's pretty alarming. Just the week before Nikki came out here, so that would have been like mid-June, I guess. There were something like 386 daily cases. Yesterday, We had 1,315 reported cases in Clark County, which is where Las Vegas is located. And it's just gone up, in the past week, it just every day keeps going up. And so I think we're going to be locking down again, so the casinos, it's not a good scene right now.
And that's so problematic. And just for people to understand, Vegas obviously depends on its tourists. But
it depends. It depends so much. The economy. There was a fellow who runs a food bank here in town, who said basically Las Vegas is ground zero for the economic damage, because there are no tourists, no entertainment, no jobs, which is making COVID-19 a bigger blow to the Las Vegas economy than even the 2008 financial crisis. Unemployment at one point was 30%, because the biggest employers, of course, are the casinos. Of the 10 top employers in Las Vegas, MGM Resorts employs 77,000 people, or they did. Let's see, Caesars has 65,000 employees, Las Vegas Sands 50,000, Wynn Resorts 37,000. So right there, you got over 125,000 just in those 5 resorts. More than that, I can't even add anymore. But it's a lot of people out of jobs, and now they did start opening up, and they should have just stayed where they were, at least for another month or so. Yeah. I know, and if people who live in Nevada, Las Vegas, were as smart as the people in New York, this would not have happened.
What does that mean?
It means that New York is doing something right and Nevada is not.
And what do you think it is? What is this?
Opening up too soon. They were crying. The governor was crying initially for, to bring the economy back, and so they traded good health for economic relief, and it's going to backfire. Obviously, it's backfiring now.
Well, here's the headline from just 3 hours ago in the Daily Beast: overwhelmed and terrified, Las Vegas reopening backfires terribly.
Yeah.
You just said that. And their casinos have been open for weeks, undeterred by 123 visitors who tested positive, a Caesars employee who died, and a hospital system reaching the breaking point.
Oh, yeah.
What is your message for people watching in other cities who believe that COVID's not such a big deal? The president who says that don't worry about COVID, things like that.
Well, I think it's obvious from experience that you have to social distance and don't reopen so fast. I'm concerned for the schools that are going to be reopening. Wear masks. There's an interesting. I should show you the Caesars. They're trying to be conscientious about it. They have all kinds of rules about if you come to visit, wear a mask. But my advice to people who want to come to Las Vegas is hold off. Don't do it. Don't do it. And if other cities and towns can take a lesson from this playbook, just don't open so fast. Just don't open so fast.
I hear you. I'm just looking at the Caesars Palace website, and you're seeing here some incredible deals, right? Like rooms for $99 and save up to 40% on weekdays, and suites that are inexpensive, relatively inexpensive. But I don't see on here here's something about health and safety protocols. So let's take a look. As they're trying to say that they're committed to this, I guess, is what they have.
Is this the CEO? Yeah, watch this. This is the CEO.
Young looking CEO. Let's hit play.
At Caesars Entertainment, we've been inspiring grown-ups to play for over 80 years. As we travel together through a new chapter, the health of our guests and our team members continues to be our priority. We've carefully considered guidance from government authorities, medical experts, and the CDC to develop a new way of operating in light of COVID-19. But we are determined as ever to deliver fun environments with the same level of friendly service you've come to expect from our resorts. And while all the excitement awaits, we also recognize there will be changes you should be prepared for when you're ready for your next visit.
Our team members have always strived to provide the highest level of service and a clean property. You'll be seeing even more of this during your visit as we increase the frequency of cleaning and sanitation practices across high-touch areas.
Our team members are washing their hands frequently for at least 20 seconds, and we encourage our guests to do the same. Hand sanitizer stations have also been added throughout our properties.
Our team members will be wearing masks that cover their nose and mouth, and guests are strongly encouraged to do so as well. The proper use of face masks and personal protective equipment is welcome at our resorts.
Thank you for practicing social distancing while visiting our resorts. Be aware to not encroach on other guests, maintaining a 6-foot distance, and watch for line markers around property in areas where lines frequently occur.
You'll notice more spacing between tables at our restaurants. Party sizes will be limited at dining establishments, and self-service and tableside preparation services temporarily not be offered.
At our slots, games will be spaced apart accordingly throughout our properties. And at table games, the number of players per table will be limited.
These practices across our resorts will be a new look for us, but you can still expect the same excitement and thrills during your visit. For a full list of our health and safety protocols, please visit.
All right, we'll pause that there. Terry, now that we've seen that, first of all, that was not the CEO we were looking at. And that's why he was another gentleman at the company, obviously. But
First fellow was the CEO.
The first fellow, but the guy on the thumbnail was not. I said the young-looking CEO. I was just being ageist there. So, you remember when we started at Columbia 25 plus years ago? We were young once, right?
Oh, I don't remember those years. I don't know. Yeah, I guess we were. Everyone was young once.
So here's what we're going to do. I want everyone to just hear a little bit about your story as a journalist and your background. You were a professor at Columbia Journalism School. You worked on one of the most exciting parts of Columbia J School, which is the Knight-Bagehot program in business and economics, journalism, financial journalism. Talk about that a little bit, and then we'll bring our other guest on as well.
Okay, great. Yeah, I had a wonderful career, 25 years at Columbia, which is where I think, Sree, you were the youngest person on the faculty, and you were so excited and motivating the students. And it was always wonderful to have you with the Knight-Bagehot fellows. You learned so much. My son Danny, and I hope he's watching. Danny remembers, learning how to create a website with you, and but the program it's a mid-career program for journalists, business journalists, and they come and spend a year at Columbia. They get free tuition and at this point a $60,000 stipend, and so it's a very competitive. It's also a very rigorous program. We get some incredible star journalists who go on to do wonderful work. And it was a delight. It was the best job on the planet. It really was. It was a wonderful time. But like you said, you get old, and it's time to move on. And I'm now I'm happy in this chapter of my life. My life consists of the 3 P's, Sree: piano, painting, and the pool.
Nice. That sounds good, and that's why you're in Vegas. Let's actually. I see the piano. I can't see the pool, and I don't see a painting nearby. Maybe when we take a break, you'll grab a painting and show us.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I want everyone to understand what the Knight-Bagehot program is, because it's among other things, one of the best programs for people who want to do a mid-career fellowship in journalism. But one of the things people don't understand is how to pronounce it. So let's start with that.
So Knight-Bagehot, Walt was named after the founder of The Economist, or one of the founding journalists at The Economist magazine. His name was Walter F. Bagehot, and in 1975,
Bagehot, like a badge, Bagehot, right?
Bagehot.
I used to call it Bagehot before I came.
I know. It's been pronounced all kinds of different ways: Bagehot, Baguette, but it was named after Walter Bagehot because at the time there was no prominent. I guess. This is the story here from Steve Shepard, who was the founder of the program. They couldn't think of another prominent business journalist to name it after, so they named it after a Brit whose name no one could pronounce. And then it became Knight in 1987 when the Knight Foundation started an endowment for the program. So that's why that funny name, Knight-Bagehot.
And the program offers a mid-career opportunity for someone to come, 8-9 students to come, people who want to improve their business journalism, right? So let's. I'm just looking at this list. Ahmed Olomran is a terrific journalist who I've known. Look at this great list of folks, and people from all over the world are able to come, and it's a very generous stipend, isn't it?
It's now $60,000. Yeah, very generous.
And you built that program up when it started. It was, it became. I had the honor of coming every year and talking to your students and the fellows about all kinds of things around digital. And you had fantastic guests. Give people a sense of the people you brought to dinner.
Well, people of your caliber, Sree, we had all kinds of incredible guests. For dinner, we had, Chairman of the Fed, Paul Volcker, and Secretary Treasurer Bob Rubin, and we had bank CEOs like Jamie Dimon, and we had, I was just honored. I don't know if you know this. I was just named Business News Visionary by Dean Ruppmeyer. And when he described me, he said I was 1 part educator and 2 parts fundraiser, because that's what my real function, I think my real goal was to just like raise the millions of dollars that it takes to fund this thing, because it costs it's basically $150,000 per student, per fellow.
Oh.
And so a lot of the guests that I would invite for dinner also ended up giving a lot of money, like Jamie Dimon at JP Morgan Chase, and Lloyd Blankfein.
Well, those are all like Wall Street and other big stars for people.
Not Wall Street.
And they would be around a table eating dinner. I sat at that table. It's fantastic.
Many times.
But they also took classes at the B School and the J School, and it's a great program. Anybody watching who wants to sharpen their business and economic reporting skills, check out the Knight-Bagehot program. Once again, this is how you search for it, Knight-Bagehot. And they have students from around the world, a few slots every year. That varies. And that's how that is spelled. So everybody check that out, the Knight-Bagehot program. Right. And we want to do our global tour because people have been checking in as they do. And our other guest is here. So let's also bring him in and say hello. Yoyce is here. Let me see if I can bring him on. Hi, Yoyce.
Hello, how are you?
Hi. Let me just
my
right there. Yeah.
Good to see you.
Yeah, great to see you. Everybody knows you as Apollo, Helm Apollo on Facebook. And
Yeah.
here you are. Tell us where you are, how you are, and how are you doing?
Yeah, so I'm living in Vegas now. I'm working for a pharmaceutical benefits management company that I won't name because they have a media policy, and I didn't tell them I'm doing this. So the thing is, I live here in Las Vegas. I've been here for about two and 3/4 of a year. And for the most part, I've been really looking at the city with a great deal of concern. Because when I first got here, just looking at things as they were on the surface, you didn't have to go very far to find the crud. And I live actually right around the corner from the strip. So I'm kind of like right in the thick of it. But there are other parts of Vegas like Summerlin and Henderson, which approach or approximate, normal neighborhoods outside of the tourist trap that you see on the strip. But the strip is even worse than I would think the Times Square. I mean, the strip is just all the way live. And the thing that I think was so concerning is that as soon as you step 1 block behind the strip, all of those grand hotels, and you look at the other establishments, there are these small, like monthly motels and hotels. And a lot of people in Vegas, because it has like it has one of the worst educational systems in the country. And then on top of it, it can be very seasonal depending on tourists and things like that. But I think that probably the critical part about Las Vegas, which I found so disturbing, is that, and after I thought about it, is that the whole city's built on addiction. And right now we are having a huge conversation in our country about addiction. And one of the things that I like to remind people, if they're in Vegas and they see someone who literally looks like The Walking Dead. I mean, it's the desert, it's hot, people's skin dries out, you don't look moisturized when you're moisturized, and I can attest to that. And the thing is that, people look a lot more weathered. And when you have people who are homeless, they look extraordinarily beat down. I mean, you really feel like you're looking at The Walking Dead. And they are zombies. A lot of these people have been traumatized, they've been victimized. And that's one of the things that I think is interesting about Vegas. It has a film noir quality to the life. But then on the other hand, there's all of this great optimism and joy and, all of these interesting things to do. So since I've lived in Vegas for 2.5 years, I've been really looking at it very closely as an anthropologist. And since these last 3 eclipses have passed, I'm ready to go.
That's a very stark picture you've painted. We're looking at this headline about Las Vegas that just we were looking at a story Pat posted just 3 hours ago. Overwhelmed and terrified, Las Vegas's reopening backfires terribly. You said it's a city built on addiction. I presume you're also talking about gambling addiction and gaming. They call it, right? They don't even call it gambling. They call it gaming. And tell us what you mean. What other kinds of addiction? And can they make so much money through this that is there any hope that it'll ever change? What is your take on it?
Well, I mean, having a hidden disability myself, I have enormous sympathy for people who are in the throes of a psychosis, right? And what you really find here in Las Vegas is that there's no real social support. So, for example, when, looking at the MGM, right, when it shut down, not only did the people who work in the hotel lost their jobs, all the taxi drivers lost their jobs, all of the other support people in the neighborhood that, support these hotels lost their jobs. And one of the things that I noticed in Vegas is that even there's like layers to it. So when we want to talk about a city being built on addiction, what I mean is that, it started off with gambling and alcohol, right? And then as America got more and more addictions, they all showed up here. But what you notice here is that, it's about a couple of hours away from an international border. There are 3 or 4 different state borders. And then when you see some of the economic constraints that people have in their lives. So if you don't have a very good education, or if you have a job that doesn't pay you very well, and say you get evicted, right? In Las Vegas, if you get evicted, no one else will rent to you. So what that does is that forces many people who are already vulnerable into more vulnerable living situations, such as these month-to-month hotels, where or weekly hotels rather, where the populations may be itinerant or they may have other issues. And it doesn't seem to me like the city has even created enough of the spaces necessary in this part of the city to really make a difference. For example, I consider my neighborhood a food desert. I can't walk to a grocery store. That to me is a food desert.
Yeah, and that of course is part of the problem. Let's bring Terri into the conversation. Terri Ann Thompson is also a former New Yorker, now living in Vegas. What do you think of his analysis of this, Terri?
Paulo was out on the street a lot more than I am. I don't leave my home. I haven't left my home in 18 weeks. I've gone out 5 times. I had to get my car tested for smog. The smog check you have to get done every once a year. So I went out for that. I went out twice to get painting supplies, and I went out twice to go to Big Lots to get toilet paper, and they were out of it. So and so now everything I want it's online. I order everything online, and like the big thrill is when the Amazon Prime truck drives by. So I'm very insulated and very isolated, and I guess I'm incredibly privileged, and I feel safe in my house, but I don't go out of my house. I've had to wear a mask 5 times, and it's like I said, I wanted to fly back to New York, but there's no way I'm going to wear a mask for 6 hours on an airplane. So I actually like Las Vegas. I like it. I don't have to. I don't suffer. I'm not. I don't go to. Right. Even when we were able to go to to casinos, I didn't go, and I do miss the restaurants. I miss the restaurants a lot. Sree, I've learned how to cook. And as a result, As a result, I've lost 12 pounds in the last 6 weeks.
Oh,
that's my cooking. Ask my husband. How's the cooking? No.
So, all right, folks. Thank you all for being here. We're in the middle of a fascinating, troubling conversation, not just about Terri's cooking, but much more serious issues with Terri Ann Thompson and Yoyce Jones. Yoyce is Helm Apollo Lee on Facebook. And he's been with us for so many days watching and commenting. So I'm delighted they're both able to be here. They listen and watch on a regular basis and add so much to the conversation. I'm going to ask them in a little bit, what's it like to be on the other side of the conversation? But let's take a look at who's watching from where. Our friend Jonathan Borstein is here. Greetings from Union Square, the East Village, for the 128th time. That's right. He's watched every episode. Even my near and dearest family members have not been able to do that for a variety of reasons. I'm going to ask both of you, tell me something you miss about the East Village, or the first restaurant you would want to go to when you come back. Let's start with Yoyce. Or restaurant or any memory of the East Village.
I mean, I was just going to say curry in a hurry. That was it.
Not in the East Village, but on 28th Street. Yeah. Okay, let's go to Terri and see what her East Village memories.
I don't remember the last time I was in the East Village. I can't remember. Is Cafe Reggio in the East Village? I don't know.
Is Garage still there?
I don't know. We'll find out. Jonathan will report in a few minutes. Paula is watching from Tallahassee, Florida. Have either of you been?
I've been to Florida, not Tallahassee.
Okay. How about you, Terri?
Well, I have been to Florida, but Florida is one of the naughty states too. It's one of the 18 states that's now part of the red zone. Have you heard about this? This just came out. The 18 states that because there's been. Did you read that story in the Wall Street?
Yeah, and our friends at the Center for Public Integrity broke the story. They got this document of 18 states that they want re-shut down the White House task force, and they didn't give that to the public.
Right.
And that's the kind of ridiculous situation we're in. 18 states need to be locked down. The government knows it, and they're not telling the public. And our friend Mei Fong, who is at a senior executive at the Center for Public Integrity, was on the show just a few weeks ago talking about all the important work journalists do to break stories like that. And we're so glad that Mei was able to do that, and her team were able to pull that together. Center for Public Integrity, do check them out and check out the reporting as well.
Well, would you like to know, are you at all interested in the 18 states? The 18.
Sure. Do you have the name?
I have it. Besides Nevada.
Yeah. By the way, I do want to clarify one thing. Nevada or Nevada?
It's Nevada.
Nevada?
If you live here, it's Nevada.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to be corrected many times. My sister told me, you're such an elitist, Terri. It's not Nevada. It's Nevada.
Nevada.
Okay.
Oh, well, if you speak Spanish, it's Nevada.
That's what I told her. That's what I said, right? Yeah. Okay, so in addition to Nevada, that's Idaho, Iowa, California, Utah, Arizona, Kansas, Arkansas, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Missouri, Alabama, Georgia, Texas, and Florida. The naughty states. Yeah. Those are all the states that have more than 100 new cases per 100,000 population.
When they first reopened Vegas, I went to the MGM just to see, well, how is this going to work? Because, the tourist trade, especially in these hotels, is all about human interaction and socializing and all of that. And I was just like, well, how are they going to do that given so much of their business is generated from this sort of activity? And so the thing was that you see there are certain gaming stations that were just blocked off, and then, they had people more distanced apart. But it really did seem like something had permanently and irrevocably changed. The gaiety, the sense of abandon, and the joie de vivre, all of that is just gone.
And that's something that is not Vegas, right? Like, I mean,
No.
this is what we hear. So here's one of the things we want to do is just take a quick break and give a chance for people to log in and tell us where they're watching from. And I want to give you both a chance to tag your friends and share with them what you're doing right now so that they can join us. So I'm giving you folks a little break there. Folks, you're watching the 128th episode of my daily global show with Scroll.in, one of India's leading news, culture, and analysis websites. We are so grateful to our sponsors and our supporters for making all of this possible. If you haven't visited with us before, this is our show, and we are on every single day as we try to tell the story of what's going on in the world. We've had guests from 13 countries and 48 cities, and now 49 cities. That's Vegas for the first time. And we're going to give you all a chance to share this, tag a friend as you hear what's happening in one of America's favorite cities, the world's favorite cities to visit. What is it like to live there? And what's it like to live there under COVID is what we're discussing. And please tell us your favorite Las Vegas memories. We'll give a chance to look at that. I know they say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, but here's your chance to tell us all. And before we continue, I want to play an ad from our friends at She's on Call, the new health and wellness show run by two of my doctor friends, Dr. Sujana Chandrasekhar and Dr. Marina Kurian, Sundays at 11 a.m. Eastern. Please don't miss it. And here's the ad.
Hi, I'm Dr. Sujana Chandrasekhar. I'm an ear, nose, and throat surgeon in New York City and New Jersey.
And I'm Dr. Marina Kurian. I'm a general surgeon in New York City area.
We'd like to introduce you to our new show, She's on Call. We air live on social media platforms from 11 a.m. to noon every Sunday Eastern Time. We discuss the medical topics of the week.
We have two great guests, experts in their field that help us analyze and look at some of the topical issues of healthcare. And we are on 11 to 12, so please join us.
We love to answer your questions, so please share and watch and send us your questions and comments.
See you Sundays at 11.
All right. I hope you will all watch that at She's on Call. Please follow on Facebook and on Twitter. They have an Instagram account and on YouTube. I learn so much every week on that show. They have two terrific senior medical leaders who happen to be women who will be on the show with Dr. Sujana and Dr. Marina. So please do check out the show on Sundays at 11. So we are still getting people from around the world checking in, and we will bring our guests back on to talk to us and share their thoughts of what it's like for Vegas under COVID. So we're on right now with Terri Thompson and Yoyce Jones. Yoyce is a mental health advocate, and Terri was my longtime colleague and former director of the Knight-Bagehot program in business and economics journalism at Columbia University. A reminder of tomorrow morning show, 9 a.m. Eastern, very early, Soil for Food and Climate Security. Dr. Ratan Lal, winner of the 2020 World Food Prize, professor of soil science at Ohio State University. I think the right way to say it is the Ohio State University. And it's on so early in the morning because in the evening, I am doing this. Pratham Beyond at prathamusa.org. Please RSVP for my conversation with Fareed Zakaria and Bollywood star Anil Kapoor and Rukmini Banerjee, the CEO of Pratham. Amazing evening it's going to be, 8:30 to 9:30 Eastern Time. Please go to prathamusa.org and please sign up. All right, let's bring back our guests and continue to talk about Vegas. Tell us your favorite Vegas memories, and we will share them with our guests. So hi, folks, welcome back. I'm just going to continue our little global tour. We only made it to 2 people, and with so many people tuning in, Anand's watching from India. Let's ask both of you if you've been to India. We'll first ask Yoyce.
Yes, I lived in South Asia for a couple of years. I lived in India and Bangladesh.
And what was that like to live in India and Bangladesh as a non-Indian? What was that like?
Well, as a Black American who grew up in Los Angeles in South Central in the 80s and the 90s, when we were really watching the hot end of the Cold War. I mean, that's what Iran-Contra was. That's what the Sandinistas and the thing in the Contras were all about. It was the hot end of the Cold War. And I grew up in Los Angeles, which was right on the front line of it in the 80s and the 90s with the drug trading and the deindustrialization and the complete collapse of economic and social networks that had previously been in vitality before these major changes came in the early 70s with Nixon and the opening of China and all the rest of it. And so when I got to India, I knew then that my experience of living in Watts for just as long as just 8 to 10 years, because my foster home at the time was there, I knew then that something had irrevocably changed about me. I knew then that trauma had occurred. And this wasn't an individual who's running around with the gangbangers. This is the person going to the library, going to the school, getting the grades. And the thing is that when I went to India, I was able to understand a lot better what stimuli had been cultivated in the United States that was not going to serve me, and in many ways would have actually been tells for anyone that, you know, may have saw those tells as problematic or probable causes or any of those other things. What I was able to do was to take myself out of the United States, out of this context, out of the race and the caste system that's here, and go look at another society and to see how I would respond and how the experiences there would possibly trigger experiences that I've had in the United States, and in that way enable some healing. I literally went to India to escape. I went there, I learned yoga and I learned meditation, and I use it more in Las Vegas than I do in New Delhi, and that's something that I think is weird.
Well,
but my favorite memory is New Year's, watching the fireworks off the stratosphere.
Before I go to Terri, I just want to ask you, there's been a lot of criticism of India's own racism inside the society as well as to outsiders. There aren't that many African Americans who come, but there are a lot of Africans who come to India to study, and they experience and complain about racism. I remember when I was at Delhi University going to watch a play in which somebody quoting African students saying, look at these people, they call us Black, and look at how they treat people who are Black themselves, and all of that kind of the colorism in India, the caste system, all of that. What did you observe, and did you yourself face any racism because you were African American?
When I was in Gurgaon, I was working for a business processing organization, and I was in Gurgaon, and I'd run out of moisturizer. I'm always about moisturizer. And the thing is that I ended up in the chemist's, that's what they call the pharmacy. And I was like, well, do you have moisturizer? So he hands me Fair and Lovely, which is like a skin bleach. I'm like, what? To me, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm Black and I'm proud. I've got the James Brown song in my head. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, this is not on. Like, what? I mean, I was just like, what did you miss in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s about this conversation? So, I mean, I felt like in India, there was a lot of the borrowing of the stereotype and the fear of the stereotype that gets produced and mass produced in the United States. And I felt like to a certain degree, people did circumscribe me by that. But I also think that there were a number of Indians who were sentient enough to know that that was a stereotype and that Black Americans or African Americans are not like all of the presentations that are being given around the world. And so I actually was able to, you know, have some very, very amazing experiences in India, you know, just as an American without even considering, you know, my race per se. I mean, I remember I was out in Gurgaon one night with a friend from New Zealand, and he was Sri Lankan, a Tamil. And we were drunk, and we were just maybe moving about too slowly. And then the police stopped. And as you well are aware, police nowhere have great reputations. And so they get out and they've got the guns. And I'm just like, what's going on? We get hustled into the back of this Suzuki, you know, the white Suzuki. And then they were just like, where do you live? And it turned out they just wanted to make sure we were safe because they didn't want our deaths washing up in some headline. So I thought that was a very interesting experience that I actually hadn't experienced in America until I moved to Washington, D.C., which has a number of Black police officers. And that was after I was 30 years old. So that says a lot about how experiences in our country are very tightly tailored in such a way as to almost limit people's mental capacity to see beyond what's in front of them. And I think that, I could talk about this all day, but, that was what I thought.
Well, thank you for sharing it, and I'm glad there was a happy ending to that encounter with the police. I do want to point out for people listening and didn't quite catch the thing that we were laughing about, there is a cream in India very popular called Fair and Lovely, and it's a skin lightening cream because that is the racism and the colorism built into Indian society, and big-time Bollywood stars sponsor this or endorse this and get sponsored by them. So they're now changing their name to Glow and Lovely. And that is its own weirdness, as you can hear in Apollo's laugh. So, but thank you for sharing that story. And another day we'll have you back on to talk about living in India and what that was like. Was there anything different between India and Bangladesh before I go to Terri?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I thought was interesting was that in Bangladesh, the culture is a lot softer. You really do have a culture of poets. In India, in Delhi, there's a lot of attitude, and, Delhi's a hard city anyway. I mean, to make it in Delhi, it's a hard city. So people's personalities reflect that hardness, but that was absent in Bangladesh. I was in Dhaka, and then I went and taught down in Chittagong. And of course, one has to be careful being a foreigner, not knowing the language and all of the local ins and outs. But on the other hand, I love Bangladesh. I am such a huge Bangladesh supporter. Same for India. But Bangladesh is my underdog.
All right, and they certainly suffer a lot with everything that happens in that part of the world, including regular natural disasters, which are a problem. Terry's been very patiently listening. Terri, you were going to tell us, have you been to India?
Oh, sadly, Sree, no, I've never been to India. I'd love to visit. I'd love to see it. I've heard so much about it from you. I'd love to go see it.
And you've had obviously Indian. Former, Indian American students and students from India as Bagehot fellows. Let's see.
Many.
Yeah. Here's Fernando watching from Los Angeles. One of the things that people who aren't used to America, when they come here, they call it Las Vegas, isn't it? Instead of before they learn it's Las Vegas. And let's see who else is watching. Stefan is praising Pratham USA, the organization I'm doing the event for tomorrow. Chitachi is watching from Fort Lauderdale. She was a fabulous guest on our show, and we loved having her. She was here for a What America Means to Me episode on July 4th. Nikki's here. We're watching from Maple Valley, Washington.
That's my niece. That's the niece that visited. Was so brave and went to the casino.
Nice. Give a shout out to all your family. Go ahead if you know any
family. Hey, Danny, where are you?
Well, let's hope Danny checks in. And Stacy is watching from Maple Valley, Washington.
And that's my sister, yeah.
Oh, wow. And Reggio, Jonathan reports, is in the village itself around Washington Square. So one day I'll have Jonathan in to explain the village and explain what the different parts of it are. Mimi Barker is watching from Carnegie Hill in Manhattan.
Hi, Mimi.
And Nikki says, we love you, Terri. Apollo, you better get your friends and family on here.
I sent the link in. If they show, they show. If they don't, they don't. I will borrow some of Terry's audience.
Yes, we will. And Shannon says, Terri, we miss you so much here in Washington. Hope to see you very soon. And Shannon says, Mask Up, Nevada. Now I'm confused. Nevada.
It's Nevada.
Nevada. All right. I miss Vegas, but not a chance. I'm going back anytime soon, says Stacy.
By the way, my sister is the reason I moved here. Bought this house 6 years ago. She lived about a mile away from me, and then back in late January, early February, she moved to Washington State, which became, of course, the first epicenter of the virus.
Right. Now it's probably.
Stacy, won't you come visit me anytime soon?
Yeah. Exactly. Mark says, greetings from Durham, North Carolina. Went to Vegas for the first time on New Year's Eve 2019. Wow, Mark, that's pretty late. You must have had some good stories there. Till then, the furthest I had been towards the West Coast was Shreveport, Louisiana. Wow, Mark, you really stayed to the east side of America there. And let's see here. Vincent, I don't know if he's joking, but he says, LOL, what journalism? And there's Stefan tuning in from Ramsey, New Jersey. And Sharon's watching from Philadelphia, Sharon Flanagan. And Stefan says, haven't been to Vegas in 3 years, and that was my first trip then. What an eye-opener first. That was, and only, I will never forget, because I left the Strip only one day before the horrible mass killing that took place at the concert from the hotel. I was shocked beyond belief for days and thankful. Did anything come out of that? Did any changes happen? Are the gun laws still the same in Nevada? We can talk about this. Go ahead, Terry.
I really don't. I'm not sure.
Okay.
As far as I know, the gun laws haven't changed. I mean, I don't have a driver's license, and lately I've been getting a ride to work. But when I did take public transport, people would be on the bus with a gun. And, you know, that's that. And it may be even more dangerous now because 28% of the Vegas's population is out of work. 28%.
The 28%. Yeah, we were just talking about that earlier. Dana says that she says greetings from Philadelphia, and Vegas is the LA's Vegas in lockdown is unthinkable. And Rajni says hello from Toronto. Have you guys been to Toronto?
Yes, beautiful city, beautiful. It's like a young New York City.
Probably cleaner.
Yeah, it's someone called Toronto New York if it was run by the Swiss. And let's see who else. Ashok is watching and says, good morning from Mumbai and Diaspora Times. And Ashok is watching from Kerala, has been reporting positive cases these days in super spreaders. India, too, has reported as the third largest country after the US and Brazil. We did an episode last week about Brazil. Fred Igber says hello.
One of my Badget babies.
Oh, nice. One of your Badget babies. I love that. And Vandana has put in a link to the Badget Fellowship, and he says, Badget, how to pronounce it. Well done, Vandana is one of our producers. You can see she's an ace producer. That's why she is one. Yeah. And Mark says, my fellow Marquette grad, Janine Klein, works with various universities there as a professor. She's also worked with the Democratic Party for many years. And my mom's watching from Kerala. Hi, Amma, love you. And Mark says, your folks remind me of my parents. You're always supporting Sree, and mine support me and my younger brother and my nephews. Thank you. Here's to all family who support everybody. And Vandana says hi to Apollo. And Stefan says, nice to see Apollo after seeing all his comments for so many of our shows. So it's great. And Mark says, trying to remember the famous African-American hotel that was finally destroyed after a few years efforts to save that hotel. When I visited, I was surprised to find a couple of ghettos, he says, in that area.
Is this Las Vegas?
Are you familiar with that hotel, Apollo?
No, is he talking about Las Vegas?
I think so. I
mean, it's likely, but because what's interesting about the American West is that after slavery, after emancipation, there are lots of black towns that were started in California and Nevada, out in the desert, because they didn't feel that they would have any sort of entree into mainstream American society. So there is a long history of black people in the West, you know, settling and building towns and things like this. So this hotel very well could exist. I just don't know.
Got it. Let's see. Doug is watching from the San Francisco area. Terri, your San Francisco memories?
You know, I visited San Francisco. Do you remember our dean, Tom Goldstein?
Of course, yeah, of course.
So shortly after my first husband passed away, Danny and I went out there to visit them, and they took me all around town. You know, we rode the trolleys. We went to, was it Alcatraz? What is that? You know, anyway, it was fun. It was. I loved San Francisco. Beautiful, beautiful place.
Yeah. What about you, Paulo?
San Francisco, I have a funny story. I have a friend I was visiting in San Francisco, and we went shopping. And it was my first time in San Francisco, and I didn't really appreciate how hilly it was. So I went and got some Cole Haan sandals, and those are leather sandals. And you really have to break them in And so I was like, well, I'm going to break them in on these San Francisco hills, and ended up with a bloody foot. So, so that was my experience of San Francisco. It's indelible.
Yeah, I guess your feet will certainly never forget. Let's see who else. And Doug, by the way, has a terrific free newsletter he writes every day of 3 headlines about COVID you need to read. Please go to DougLevy.com or go to DougLevy.substack.com or just tweet at him at SFDoug. You've got the perfect handle, SFDoug, but he worked with us in New York at Columbia, where he really changed the way the hospital system communicated in the medical school and Columbia University Medical Center communicated. It's fabulous. And Stacy says, and murder hornets. I don't know what that's a reference to, but just dropped in there. Robert says, Bob Anthony, who's fabulous journalist, says, don't know when I'll be in Vegas again. I feel sorry for the Las Vegas Convention Center, which is finishing up a huge expansion, which will probably sit vacant for some time. And many of you have met Bob on the show. He's at New York Bob, all spelled out. And he said to me something that I'll never forget. Early on in the pandemic, he said, I don't know if I can go to the Computer Electronics Show anytime soon. I don't know if I'll go in January. And this was when things were, just starting. And it struck me that it'd be like having to have the Consumer Electronics Show, one of the giant shows that shows up in Vegas, the conference and exhibition hall and things like that, without Bob Anthony's, like having Sundance without Robert Redford. So that says something about the traveling public, about people like Bob and journalists, and if he's not willing to go. So he says he feels sorry for those folks there. And I know you have all seen that, the economic impact, not just of tourists, but these convention goers who descend allegedly to do work and network.
Yeah, I mean, last year you could just drive down the strip and you could see the expectation and the optimism, because vast lots were being bought up that were going to be the sites of these new destination hotels, like the Paris Hotel, or there was going to be one in London and another one like Philippines. And I was very surprised to see that the Wynn Company finished the hotel. And then this was right in the middle of COVID. And in a way, I was very happy for them, because there's this famous hotel called I think it's the Fontainebleau, Fontainebleau, and it's empty. It's this large building. It's got all the glass. It looks practically almost complete, except I think they ran out of money. So Vegas is very interesting like that. You get this, it's interesting. You can really get a win-lose dynamic in this town. And with COVID, I think it might be even enhanced.
And what do you mean by win-lose dynamic?
So for example, when I was looking for a job, I eventually got one in insurance, and I got those licenses, and that changed things. But in Vegas, you can get a job just walking into a room and knowing how to write your name and address, and you sit on the phone. And if you are able to sell a vacation to Vegas, that's a good $600-700 for one phone call. And what happens is, what I've noticed is that with the aspects of addiction in the society, I've noticed that with a lot of individuals who have an addictive issue, have an addiction, they will go to these places where you don't have to really qualify, but if you can sell a vacation, then that's how they make their living. And then they're out of money 2 weeks later, and you're like, well, how are you out of money? And then that's when you realize that there's this dynamic of win-lose, because here they are helping Vegas win by bringing in all these tourists, but on the other hand, Vegas is not giving them a support program to help them with their addiction.
Yeah, and that's let's hear from Terri. I'm going to ask Terri about this as well. And we're looking at a map of Vegas just to kind of situate it for people. You see California further west. And when we're talking about the Strip, when we say that, tell us, Terri, what we mean by Vegas and the Strip. Where are we looking? What should I be zooming into?
So if you want to see where I live in a place called Paradise, which is about 5 miles east of the Strip and 5 miles.
Here? Is this
Pardon me?
Is this the Strip here, or?
No.
That's
Hold on.
You see where it says the Strat, Circus?
Yeah.
Look here, that's the Strip.
Okay. And so you're 5 miles east over here somewhere?
Yeah, I'm 5 miles. I'm down here where it says Paradise. Can you see where it
Oh, I
says
see
Paradise?
it right there. Yeah, I see it right there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's I'm in that area, which is about a mile from Henderson. Well, yeah, Henderson. We're sort of like on the border, and then so the strip. It's really not that long. How long is it, Apollo? About what was it? 5 miles or so. It starts from the Strat. So I guess like Mandalay Bay is on one end and the Strat's on the other, and it's very glitzy and glamorous. And the Wynn is a beautiful, beautiful place. It actually has a dress code.
It is. But I mean, it's just like, but that's the thing. So you have that large, thoroughfare with all the entertainment, all of the hotels, all of the shows, all of the food. It's all located there. But what's interesting is that, I've only walked around the strip maybe 3 times in the almost 3 years that I've been here. And the reason why is because it really does attract a lot of riffraff. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on in the area, and it's always very interesting to see how it all hangs together. And it's a fun place, I'm sure, if you're having fun, but it's also one of those places where you have to mind your wits, because I'm sure a lot of people start off at the strip, but then they end up with the bail bondsmen downtown, and there are lots of bail bondsmen in Las Vegas, a lot. That's why I have insurance licenses.
Well, let's have you tell people what a bail bondsman is. Remember, we're people all over the world who may not be familiar with this uniquely American institution. Talk about that, Paulo.
So a bail bondsman is, when you're arrested and you go to jail, and if it's a charge that, requires a trial or requires you to come back, and rather than staying in jail, you can put up a piece of property or something if the judge allows it, that says, okay, if you pay $1,000, then you can get free. And so you just have to show up when your court trial starts. So what happens is a lot of people get caught up in Las Vegas and get stuck here. There's a very interesting mystical quality about Las Vegas, even in my complex. I mean, my complex is lovely. It's landscape. It's beautiful. I love walking around it. The crowd, not so much. But the thing is that with the landscaping, with the trees and the bushes and the things like this, at night, you see things moving, but you're never sure if it's the shadow of a human being or just the shadow of a palm frond. And that is always going to be something that I'll take away about Vegas, is that Vegas is a mirage, but it's a mirage at night.
Okay. Since we mentioned bail bondsman, there's a show called Sneaky Pete on, I think it's still on Amazon Prime Video that features a whole story about a bail bondsman family. And I learned a lot about it by watching that show. Let's go to Terri, and we want to hear from her about Vegas. Anything else you want to tell us about Vegas?
No, it's a great place to paint and play the piano.
I'll give Nevada this.
I never got down the picture.
Oh, you did? Wow.
Oh, that's amazing. Can you teach me to paint, Terri?
Hold on. Hold that in front of your face. Yep. Let's go a little more centered. Nice. Hold on. I'm going to take off the banner so we can get a nice clear shot of that. Look at this. Beautiful. Lovely.
Wow, those are amazing colors.
Yeah, look at that.
That's
so
awesome.
For those of you who missed it, Terri says that she specializes in 3 Ps: pool, painting, and piano. That's right behind her. Look at that grand piano there. So that's great. She's still tagging her friends and sharing her friends. Okay, go ahead. You're gonna
play?
Yes, please. Are you gonna play something? No.
Yeah, I have to unmute it. I don't know if you can hear it.
Not yet. You got to be louder.
Oh.
Wow, Terri.
Isn't that patriotic?
It's patriotic.
Love it.
And it looks easy to play, like you can learn it.
So that's what I do all day long.
How hard is it to play?
I don't have to gamble.
How hard is it to play that song?
My husband keeps me righteous. I don't do anything wrong.
Yeah, and he's a wonderful musician, so it's great to know that. Before we go, we're just going to look at some more comments. Let's see. Sree says, cool painting. Stefan says, beautiful painting. Shitachi says, lovely. Mark says, there are a lot of bail bondsmen in Durham, North Carolina as well. And Shitachi says, I'm in Vegas every year for the NAB show. That's the National Association of Broadcasters. Very big show there. Mark says, I find it hilarious that the computer trade show is there at the same time as the porn awards. And there's so much, they call it Sin City. And here is Bob Anthony saying that hotel was Fitzgerald's. And that's the hotel that we were talking about earlier. And then, I'm sorry to cover you up, Terry, for a second. Jonathan's giving us a tour of the Greenwich Village. Was originally what we now call the West Village. The area of the village that's around Washington Square was and still is in some cases called Washington Square, as in the novel by James. The area changes names sometime around World War I. The area known as the East Village was the northern part of the Lower East Side, became known as the East Village in the 50s, more or less with the beats. Nowadays, the village is more or less 14th Street to Houston Street. You can check that all out on Facebook. Thank you, our resident East Village reporter, Union Square reporter, Jonathan Borstein. So I'm going to go to our guests and ask them to give us a couple of final thoughts, and just so grateful to them for being here with us. We are so happy to hear from them, but very, very sad for what's happening in Vegas. So first, let me go to Terri to hear her thoughts.
So I do hope that things do get better and that you'll all come and visit Las Vegas, because it is, I think it's a glorious place to visit for, it's great to live too. But, and now that Walmart is demanding masks, maybe things will get better a lot faster.
Yeah, because the government isn't, but Walmart is. And just to say, isn't it terribly hot there in the summer? You're inviting.
Hold on a second. Hold on. Let me see. Alexa, what's the temperature?
Right now, it's 107 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh yeah, it cooled down. It's only 107.
107 degrees. Oh my God.
Yeah, but it cooled down, so it's not bad.
Terri, to me, you're always a New Yorker, but just awesome to see you thriving in Vegas despite the circumstances. Thank you so much for being an awesome friend for 25 plus years, a great colleague. I learned so much from you, and journalists are usually terrible administrators, but you were one who made that switch and made it so beautifully, and you ran that project and that the Knight-Bagehot program so well. Many journalists, when they become administrators, they don't do so well, but you did. And I was always taking tips from you on how to be a journalism administrator. And so I'm so grateful to you. And thank you so much for being part of my life and being connected with me through this show every single day. I appreciate it.
Thank you for keeping us connected. And Sree, come visit, please, when things clear up, please.
I would have. And for those of you who missed it, the reason we're doing the show was this week I was going to be in Vegas with my entire family. We were at one of the fancy hotels for a big conference. In fact, I want to show you the tweet I sent out about the conference and being excited about all of it. But of course, that wouldn't come to be. Here's it says, excited to speak at the inaugural NXT Summit in Vegas in July with fab luminaries. You can see all these famous social media people and then me thrown into the mix. But my team at Digimentors was going to be with us. So this was February 9th. Look how quickly the world changed, right? 1 month later, everything canceled, everything postponed. July 13th to 15th, we were going to come out. 3 of my colleagues from Digimentors and my family were going to be there. I was planning to spend time with Terri, and now look where we are. So sad, but thank you so much, Terri, and everyone, please connect with her and check out her paintings. I hope you put them on Facebook.
Okay.
Thanks, Terri.
Bye-bye.
Bye. And let's go to Apollo. Yoyce Jones, thank you for being here. I know you came in, you were coming right from work and you jumped on the air to be with us. I'm so grateful. Give us some closing thoughts for now.
Well, this is my first time actually being on video on the internet. So thank you so much for the debut. I appreciate that. The other thing is that I would say, despite some of the things that I've said, come to Vegas, see Las Vegas. There's something in Vegas for everyone. I think that it is a good experience for people to have. I think everybody should see Vegas, but I think you should come with a sense of responsibility. Just understand that some of the things that you see are not necessarily costing someone monetarily, but it could be costing them in other ways. So in that way, just be responsible about your choices. I know everybody wants to have fun, but just be responsible. And then there's more than just the Strip. There's Red Rock. Nevada is actually very beautiful. It has a very beautiful natural landscape, very beautiful sky. So I would definitely encourage everyone to come to Las Vegas, but just be aware that it has an agenda. Those casinos do not have clocks in them, and you cannot tell whether it's night or day for a reason.
Oh, wow. That is scary. Let's see who else is here. There were a couple more comments coming in. And Mimi Barker is asking about the fundraiser tomorrow with Fareed Zakaria. I'll tell you all in a minute. And my mom says, I remember visiting Vegas for the first time from Washington when we were posted there. And she's watching from Carolina. It was the day of the election between Al Gore and George W. Bush. When we went to bed in the night, it seemed Al Gore almost won. But by the time we woke up, Bush was the president and America was never the same again. And this is what I tell people who are counting on President Trump to not be reelected. I tell them that they are very foolish if they think there is no chance that Trump will be reelected. This country is capable of great things and horrible, terrible things. And misjudgment is one of them. And that's before, by the way, we inject the Russians into it, and the trolls, and the misinformation, the disinformation, all of that. And that's what we're faced right now. I want to thank everybody who's been watching. Here is Rajan, who has been a guest on the show. He was on the same show about what America means to me. And he says, earlier this evening, I was in the West Village for the first time in months, wearing full PPE and taking some photos. 5 out of 12 people in subway were wearing masks incorrectly with their noses out. And about 30% of those on the street weren't wearing masks at all. So this is how you wear it. You put it over your nose like that. You pinch it, and you wear it like that, and you make sure it's under your chin. There you go. Well done, Yoyce. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. Very important. Yeah. Well, you're trying to adjust it in the mirror, so it's a little hard.
Right, exactly. But that's how you put it on. Just cover this part.
Yeah, I totally understand. Jonathan says he was a tour guide, seriously, and that's why he knows so much about New York. And he says, interesting show with some chilling moments. Thank you. One of those chilling moments, if you don't watch if you don't rewind the show, where Apollo was telling us, and he called it a city of addiction, and just really, really sad to hear that. And Rajan says, thank you, everyone. I will catch what I missed later tonight, early tomorrow. And Rajan says, Yoyce, you have an awesome smile. So there you go. We only saw him commenting all these days, and instead he's now here. He said this is his debut on camera, so I'm delighted. And Chatati says, thank you so much, Yoyce. I love your personality. That's great. And I also love the way you say India. You say it with great love. Say it again, please.
India.
Yeah, India.
Yeah, India.
I love hearing that. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye to Yoyce. I know he just got back from work. He has to have dinner. It's 7:30. So we wish you the very best. Looking forward to seeing you in New York. And rewind, folks, to listen to Terri's great stories about being a New Yorker in Vegas, and Yoyce's stories about being a New Yorker in Vegas, and also what it's like to be a Black American visiting in India and Bangladesh, and some of the adventures and misadventures he had there. And with that, Yoyce, I'll say good night. Apollo, thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you, and thank you all for being here. Before we go, we're going to do our nightly ritual of doing what Professor Kimberly Crenshaw asked me to do. I said to her on a show, what can I do to be an ally in the fight for racial equality? And she said, say their name. So we're going to do that. And Rajan and others came together to do something very special, and I'm going to tell you that in just a minute. Before we do that, we want to tell you about a couple of shows coming up. The first is our good friend and my colleague at Digimentors, Stefan Kaplan, is hosting the @Spinit Social Hour, and he is interviewing Simi Joyce tomorrow on Instagram, Culinary Optics from Chicago. This is his weekly show where he interviews photographers and tries to bring attention to the great photography and the role of photography in social media. So please check him out at 10 a.m. Eastern Time on Saturday. And I know you will enjoy that show. It's right after our show tomorrow morning, which I know you will learn a lot at. It's called Soil for Food and Climate Security. Dr. Ratan Lal, winner of the 2020 World Food Prize and professor of soil science at The Ohio State University. And we're glad to talk to him. He won this award during the pandemic, and so we'll get to hear from him tomorrow. And then tomorrow night, the reason the show is so early, 12 hours earlier than usual, is because tomorrow night I have the honor to interview my friend Fareed Zakaria and a Bollywood star Anil Kapoor and Rukmini Banerjee, the CEO of Pratham, at Pratham's National Fundraising Gala, prathamusa.org. There is a RSVP form, and it's a volunteer contribution, prathamusa.org. Please sign up right now. Several of you have said you're doing it already. It's 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. There's also a fabulous Bollywood singer named Sean, and he sings a lot for artists like Shah Rukh Khan and those Bollywood stars. So I'll be interviewing Fareed and Rukmini and Anil tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, prathamusa.org. You have to sign up. It's behind closed doors. It's online. It's much better produced than what I'm doing here. So please check out prathamusa.org tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And with that, we're going to say their names. We had been for several weeks saying their names through this Titus Kaffir cover of Time magazine, where you're seeing all the names of men and women killed in police action. And on the right is a sad, sad photograph of the mother of George Floyd with a young George Floyd, that's Larcinia Floyd, who would die 2 years, almost to the date that he would be killed in Minneapolis. And then they're now buried next to each other in Houston. And I can't get over seeing this picture every single day as I have. Thank you for being with us as we now say her name. These are the names mentioned in the updated version of the Say Her Name report for women killed by police in America. To anyone who's watching, and I want to say this, I'm the son-in-law of a police officer, and I have friends who are police officers in NYPD and elsewhere. I've had students who've been police officers. This is not to say that all police officers are bad. We hold police officers to a higher standard. No matter what crime these people may have been guilty of, if any. In many cases, they're innocent people. No one deserves to be killed for any reason, and certainly not by police action. That is the point of this. A lot of people don't understand it. A lot of people argue with me about this and say, why are you saying their names? What is this about? What about, and you know this is the way that ultra right-wing people behave, and they say, what about this? They call it whataboutism. And yes, there is black on black crime. There is white on white crime. There are white officers. There are white people who die at the hands of the police. All of that is true. But we hold the police to a higher standard and need to talk about that. And that's why we're doing this on this show. I hope that's clear, and I hope that makes sense. And so we say their names every single day. We're now using the Say Her Name report, and now I'm going to say their names. Breonna Taylor, Tatiana Jefferson, Charlena Siobhan Lyles, Corinne Gaines, India Kager, Sandra Bland, Alexia Christian, Maya Hall, Megan Hockaday, Janisha Fonville, Natasha McKenna, Tanisha Anderson, Aura Rosser, Shanique Proctor, Michelle Cousseau, Pearlie Golden, Gabriela Navarez, Yvette Smith, I'm going to pause here and just to say, if you've never heard of some of these names and heard a lot about a few of those names, tells you the problem, that these are not names that are not even known. And each one of them has a story. Each one of them deserves to be known. Again, it doesn't matter what their background is, what the circumstances were. The fact is, no police officer is judge, jury, and executioner. Under any circumstances, anywhere in the world, there is a criminal justice system, and that's what it is for. Let's read the rest of the names. Renisha McBride, Miriam Carey, Chaim Livingston, Kayla Moore, Shelley Fry, Melissa Williams, Shulena Weldon, Alicia Thomas, Chantel Davis, Charmel Edwards, Rekia Boyd, Cherise Francis, Aina Stanley Jones, Tarika Wilson, Catherine Johnston, Alberta Spruill, Kendra James, Latanya Haggerty, Margaret Laverne Mitchell, Taisha Miller, Danette Daniels, Frankie Ann Perkins, Sanji Taylor, Eleanor Bumpers. And those, of course, are just the women, and only some of the women, that have been killed in police action. Our thoughts are with their families and with everyone who suffers any injustice anywhere in the world. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for supporting us for 128 shows. This is the support that we have gotten is the reason I'm able to do the show every single night. We have, in the first 125 shows, have had 234 guests from 48 cities and 13 countries. As you know, tonight we went to our 49th city, and that was Vegas. And we're grateful to Scroll.in, one of India's best news, information, and culture websites, for simulcasting us and for supporting us. And we're also grateful to our friends at Muckrack Academy for allowing us to put together this free course at a time of great economic pain. One of the tiny, tiny, tiny things that I can do is to help people understand social media better. And there's a free certification course that anyone can take in any background, anywhere in the world. And 4,000 people have taken this course, and you can too. It's about 2 hours of work, Netflix style. You can watch live, you can watch all together, you can binge watch, or you can do it over 2 months. It doesn't matter. It will remember your spot, save your spot, and you can take that class at Muckrack Academy. It's mrac.co/social. Take a photo or take a screenshot and please share it. And also, we want to remind you about She's on Call, a show I'm honored to co-executive produce with Dr. Sujana and Dr. Marina at She's on Call on Facebook and on Twitter and on YouTube and on Instagram. But join us on Sundays on Facebook and Twitter, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Don't miss out. With that, we'll say goodbye. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your support, your encouragement. We're always looking for guests, always looking for story ideas, and always, always looking for sponsors. So please write to me, Sree@Sree.net, SREE@SREE.net. Check out our awesome archives on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/SreeNet. And one more show to tell you about this Sunday, don't forget, is our New York Times read-along. And we have a guest host, Neil Parekh. Our executive producer will be sitting in for me. And Claire Smith, the first woman inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame's Writers Wing, former New York Times columnist and current ESPN news editor, Claire Smith, will be with us. Neil Parekh, huge, huge baseball fan, is over the moon to guest host. The reason he's guest hosting is that I was to fly to Puerto Rico for vacation, and we're going to leave on Sunday. And now, obviously, we're not. We're here in New York. We're staying for the long haul here, and 128 days of lockdown in New York City. With that, thank you very much, everybody. Hope to hear from you. Sree@Sree.net, SREE@SREE.net. Please hit subscribe on our YouTube channel, and please follow us on Twitter, Sree, and Instagram is SreeNet. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll say goodbye now, and we'll see you soon. Bye.